Hey everyone, how you doing today? Topic number 3 with Greg Dickerson is going to be a fun one. Lots of you have given me a hard time over the years going, why don't you own a Ferrari or a Lamborghini? You try to tell us you're an expert. You try to tell us you're financially free. Go flex and buy a ridiculously expensive car. So I'm going to ask Greg Dickerson, all right, if you and I wanted to go buy a Ferrari, how would we do it? So Greg, congratulations. We both want a Ferrari or Lamborghini. Which one do you want?
Well, I've been there, done that. And mine was actually a Hummer H2 when they first came out.
There you go. You bought your toy, huh?
Oh yeah. That was back, I don't know, 20 years ago, 15, whatever it was when I went through that whole, you know, but it was utilitarian. I lived in an area where, I lived on a beach and it was 4-wheel drive and I used it for fishing and driving up and down the beach. So, it did have utility to it. So it wasn't just total eye candy that you just park in the garage. So number one, I used it. I went and bought the luxury vehicle and I used it every single day, which, a lot of these guys will buy one and stick it in the garage or something. Yeah. It's like silly. Go drive the thing. Why else did you buy it? Yeah. But to answer your question, build businesses that generate cash flow to invest in other assets that'll pay for your toys. So that's what I did. So it's always about, if you want something, you need to think about, how can I afford it? And it's funny, people used to come up to me all the time. And that, the biggest question I ever had with that Hummer was, what's the gas mileage in that thing? It's really funny, and they're like, yeah, because gas was $3 or $4 a gallon or whatever, $3 a gallon when I bought it. And they're like, what kind of gas mileage you get? And I'm like, 10. And they're like, man, that's a lot of money. I said, well, if you have to think about the gas mileage, you don't need to be buying it.
Yeah. All right. So let's just pick on a Ferrari because I think they're beautiful cars. So let's say you want to go buy you have your eye on this $300,000 Ferrari. I have no idea which one. Magic is 300 grand. Again, you're sitting there, you're in the dealership, going to buy it brand new, but you got to go make the money first, right?
Right. Because you want to pay cash for something like that. You don't want to lease it. You don't want to get it on payments. You can do all that, but that's even dumber than buying it in the first place.
You mean you don't want to sign up for an $8,000 car payment?
No, because there's so many. So for me, there's so many better uses of the cash. I don't care how much money you have, to throw something, again, to throw that much cash on something you're going to stick in your garage and not even really use. Now, if you're driving it every day, whatever. But, since that Hummer experience, I said, I'm not doing that anymore. And I've driven a Suburban ever since, which those things ain't cheap, They're, when I was buying Suburbans, they were 50 grand. Now they're 70, to 80. It's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
But, but anyways, yeah. So if you go in there, you want to pay cash, you can lease them, you can rent them, you can finance them, you can do all that. But if you can't afford to pay cash for the car, don't buy it.
Wow. Okay. So if you can't stroke the check or bring a bag full of money, don't buy it. Okay. So it's 300 grand.
Yeah.
So you've got to go spend some time building a business, right? And putting the cash flow and saving away.
Or investing in Bitcoin or NFTs or, stocks.
Come on. That's not what you and I would do. Come on. That's not. No. So
not now, but when it was $3,000, that was the time to do it.
Exactly. So again, what you would probably go do is let's just pretend that's what you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
It's something on the vision board or whatever you have. And you're like, okay, I'm going to go spend 1 to 5 or 6 or whatever years it takes. And you're going to go produce cash flow or profit. You're going to take a percentage of that and probably tuck it away, right? That's your Ferrari money. Because you still got to invest in the business. You got to keep it going. You got to, you can't take all the profit or else you just don't grow.
Yeah.
So what, you take 5% away and you just wait till you got 300 grand and then you walk in the store with a bag full of money, or what's the deal?
Yeah. It depends on how bad you want it and, how much you're really making, but, what you can live on. So, I mean, if that's something you really, really want, then you save as much as you can possibly save to, get to the point where you can buy it. But again, there's a lot to think about when you buy cars like that a lot of people don't think about. Obviously, number 1's the fuel. Number 2 is the maintenance. Maintenance is, 20-fold on a car like that versus your average car. So you got to think about the cost of ownership. And when the economy suffers, man, when it was going down 2008 and 9, let me tell you, there were a lot of Rolexes, Ferraris, Bentleys, Rolls Royce. You can find them everywhere for 50 cents on the dollar. So, those things are not an investment. They're a liability. You need assets. So really the best thing to do would be to build a business, use that cash flow to invest in assets like real estate that build value, that pay for the car. Yeah. That's what you want to do.
Yeah. That's kind of how I broke it down, because I knew this was going to be our topic number 3. So I actually thought about this one this morning. I would go in and I would use my analytical brain and go, okay, what is this thing going to cost me, or what should I expect it to cost me a month? Because that's just how my world's always been months or quarters ever since I had because I always had a sales quota, right? It's just how my brain works. And a 300,000 car like that, yeah, gas, insurance, maintenance. For me, it's like this thing might cost 15 grand a month, right? And if I'm going to eat that, I need to go produce at least 18 or 20 grand because you're going to have surprises and flips. So that's kind of how I broke it down. I'm like, damn, I got to go find a way to make 20 grand. And then in my world, it's always buy and hold real estate. Well, okay, well, that means I'm going to have to do 5 flips a year, take the profit from that, go buy 3-4 plexes, go do that, go that. I'm like, damn, I'm going to have like, I'm just making up numbers now, 50 more units to get the car. Right. And I'm like, okay, great. So 50 units is the number. That's kind of how I walked through my logic. It was okay. Figure out.
For me, it's, go build a couple of houses, go flip a couple of houses. Cause if you're making, 50, 75, 100 grand a house, or whatever, back when I was coming up, that was my world. So you go, and that's how I did what I did. I sold the house, I made 300 grand. I went and spent, 100 of it on a Hummer,
That's right.
And so to me, it was just, whatever. I just flipped this house, made this money, what the heck? I was young, stupid, but looking back now, it's like, if I'd have taken that 100 and put it in just even in an index fund, it'd be millions now. So it's, even though I hadn't, it was discretionary. It's still just, to me, it's just, I'm at the point in my life now where it just doesn't make any sense. And I could care less about that stuff,
Yeah, but come on. Lots of people like to think about owning a Ferrari. So yeah, for me, it's not, for me, it was, okay, what is this thing going to cost me a month? I'm going to go buy assets that pay it. Cause eventually the car will be paid for. Either it's paid for the day you buy it or over time. And then I still want the assets, right? That was the thing.
Yeah. Or it could make more sense to lease it because lease is going to be your cheapest payment, so depending on what kind of a business you have and how you structure the lease, that, and if you're not driving it, you're not putting miles on it, then a lease could make a lot more sense for you than, buying it, paying cash, owning it. And then what makes the most sense, if you want to drive a Ferrari, just go rent one for the weekend, get it out of your system and then give it back.
I'm glad you brought that up because one of the things I've talked about that I failed, it's my biggest regret is I didn't celebrate as we were on this journey to financial freedom. That's exactly what I tell people to do, right? It's either a car like Ferrari or everybody wants a boat for some reason. I'm like, the two best days in a boat owner is the day you buy it, the day you sell it, right? Because they just sit there and
So again, I lived in a summer resort destination, the Outer Banks of North Carolina, fantastic fishing. We were like, right off the Gulf Stream. So offshore fishing was huge. Every contractor I knew had a boat. I was the only contractor in the beach that did not have a boat. You know why? What is a boat? It's a hole of water you throw a bunch of money into.
Yeah.
So I was like, why buy a boat? Everybody I know has one and they're always asking me to go out fishing with them. So there's absolutely no reason for me to have a boat.
Yeah.
And, I was too busy with everything else, but I stayed away from that because, it's just, man, those things are expensive.
Go rent one. Like you said, go rent a Ferrari, go drive the coast.
And it's time consuming, and that's the other thing. So here's what I did. Instead of all that, instead of a boat and the expensive, I did the expensive car, but then, after a while, I ended up selling it down the road, but it was fun. I used it. I took it fishing. I took it surfing, I used it. But what I did was I bought, I had a second home at a ski resort, didn't rent it, didn't have to, just bought it, paid cash, stocked it up. So it was there. So I'd pick the kids up after school on a Friday. We'd head up to to the ski resort, Wintergreen, and we'd go up there and we'd ski all weekend and go home. So those are the types of things I did versus all the other little toys.
Yeah.
That way the whole family could enjoy it. With boating, it just, boating's too much time, too much energy, too much for me. Because the whole family couldn't participate because, we were doing all kinds of different things. So I spent it on things that we could participate on. And then, obviously we traveled and went different places and stuff like that. So I'm all about renting and using what you need when you need it. Even owning a second home like I did, I wouldn't do it again because then it was fun when the kids were growing up, but you're kind of locked into going there.
Yeah, one spot,
and you don't
right?
really go anywhere else.
Yeah.
But it was nice and it was a good weekend, place, and it was close. We could be there in 4 hours, in 4.5 hours.
That's cool. Well, this has been fun. So this is how we would go do it. And again, I think I would close with just go rent the damn thing and go rent a nicer one, right? If you can afford a 300, go do this. I mean, it just so you know, I mean, I've looked at renting Ferraris. They're not cheap. It'll be 8, 9, 10 grand, but go get that adrenaline, rev it up, burn the tires out, take some pictures And then have there
Yeah,
be
you
a
can try a
memory.
bunch of different ones,
Yeah.
and I mean, you can go down to Disney and drive them on a racetrack, and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
There you go. Well, this has been fun, man. I appreciate you. Any closing thoughts on all today's discussions?
Yep. So at the end of the day, no matter what it is you want to do, so you want to think, always think, not I can't, it's how can I. So whether you want to do something, you want to buy something, you want to go somewhere, in terms of affordability, how can I afford it? So that was when I flipped my mindset back in the day, was how can I afford the things that I want for my family and for me? And so that's where I set out to build businesses that generated cash flow, to invest in other assets, to pay for the things that I wanted to do in my life. And same thing, if there's just anything you want to do, don't convince yourself or stop yourself by saying, I can't do something. Forget the money. It's just whatever.
Yeah.
I could never do that. Instead think, how could I do that? How can I make it happen? How can it be possible for me? And more importantly than that, who do I need to become in order for that to happen?
Oh, I love that finish. Thank you very much, Greg. That was a great way to end this. Thanks, buddy.